All right, so today we're going deep on Ahmed Faraz.
Sounds good.
I think a lot of people are interested in Faraz because his work is both romantic and revolutionary.
Definitely.
And we're going to be looking specifically at his ghazals.
Wonderful.
So for anyone listening who might not know,
Yeah.
a ghazal is this really cool form of poetry
Right.
that uses rhyming couplets and then this refrain at the end of the second line.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really popular in South Asia.
Yeah, super popular.
But even for people who know what ghazals are, I think a lot of people are drawn to Faraz
Oh, totally.
because he combines these deeply personal expressions of love and longing
Yes.
with these, really powerful statements about politics and society.
Yeah, and he does it so beautifully.
Yeah, so how does that even work?
Right.
How do you combine those things?
Well, I mean, first you have to understand Faraz, the man.
Oh,
so he was born in 1931,
Okay.
and he passed away in 2008.
Okay.
But his work is still incredibly relevant today.
And it's interesting, even outside of South Asia,
Yeah.
people all over the world are reading Faraz.
Yeah.
And they're finding something really powerful in his words.
Absolutely. And I think part of that is because the themes that he writes about are so universal. I mean,
Yeah.
love, longing, heartbreak.
Yeah.
These are things that everyone experiences no matter where they're from or what language they speak.
Right, but there's also that element of defiance in his work
Yeah.
that kind of sets him apart, I think.
Exactly. And I think that's where the ghazal form itself comes into play.
Okay.
So each couplet in a ghazal,
Yeah.
it's like this little window into the speaker's heart. It's
Mhm.
this moment of intense emotion.
Yeah.
But then the refrain, that repeating line at the end of the second line,
Right.
it acts like a thread that ties all of these couplets together.
Okay.
So it's like you're experiencing this kind of wave of emotion,
Yeah.
but there's this underlying current that connects it all.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
It's really powerful when you think about it that way.
Do you have a particular line or couplet from Faraz?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
But one that really sticks with me is, my heart is a house of mourning,
Mhm.
where every breath I take is a lament.
Wow.
It's so heavy, but it's also so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, you really feel the weight of that sorrow.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because that line, it speaks to both the romantic and the revolutionary aspects of Faraz's work.
Right.
Because on the one hand, you have this deep sense of personal loss.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's this sense that this grief is connected to something larger
Yes.
than just the speaker's own individual experience.
Exactly.
It's like he's mourning for something beyond himself.
And I think that's where the revolutionary aspect of his work comes in. Because he was very outspoken about political injustice and social inequality.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to use his poetry to challenge the status quo.
But I also feel like his work is rebellious on a more personal level, too.
Absolutely.
By embracing vulnerability and expressing these really intense emotions.
Yeah.
In a culture that often tries to suppress those things.
Right.
He's kind of rebelling against those cultural norms as well.
And some might even argue that his love poetry is his most rebellious work.
Interesting.
Because he's refusing to shy away from these feelings
Right.
that are so often seen as weak or feminine.
Yeah.
He's celebrating them.
And you mentioned earlier that Faraz's work appeals to people who might not normally read poetry.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the musicality of his language.
Okay.
Especially in his ghazals.
Yeah.
The rhyme and the rhythm create this kind of melody that carries the emotion even before you fully understand the words.
Yeah.
It's like listening to music.
That's a good way to put it.
It bypasses the intellect and goes straight to the heart.
And I think that's why his work continues to be sung and recited today.
Absolutely.
Because it has this inherent musicality that draws people in.
Yeah, even if they don't think of themselves as poetry lovers.
So we've talked about Faraz the man.
Right.
And we've talked about the ghazal form.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about how he combines these themes of romance and revolution.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway for listeners?
I think Faraz reminds us that poetry can be both deeply personal and powerfully political, and that it can allow us to see the world through a lens of both love and resistance.
That's really beautifully said.
Thank you.
So for our listeners out there, if you were to write a ghazal, what themes of love, longing, or defiance would you explore?
That's a great question.
Yeah, what stories would you weave into your verses?
I love that.
Think about it. It might surprise you what you discover within yourself.
It really might.
Right. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on Ahmed Faraz.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.